So, Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Whoa! Aerosmith's gonna kick ass. Is that where we're gonna start?
Yeah, we can say. Yeah, we'll just start it right there. That's fine. That's fine.
Oh,
It's a good place to start. I'm having orange soda.
Nice.
This is actually, we got a Soda Stream.
Nice.
And just kind of like, because like I was at like a family gathering, and they had one, and I was just like, that's fucking cool. So we ended up getting one, and now we've been experimenting with the flavors and stuff. But for me, I've been using it to make mixers to put with like my drinks on the weekend or whatever, you know.
Nice.
But it's fun. It's fun. But now I'm doing an orange soda, which like my only gripe about the stuff that's made, the syrups that are made, is that they use, I don't know what the fake sugar is that it's in it, but it gives it a strange aftertaste that you got to get used to.
Fructose corn syrup. I don't know.
No, that would be better.
Ah.
I don't know. Doesn't matter. This is not very interesting beginning. We've been gone for a month, and it's like Soda Stream. They're not a sponsor.
We're now officially a fizzy drinks podcast. Today we're going to be cranking and ranking the flavors of Fanta. Fun fact, Fanta was invented by the Nazis.
Is that true?
I don't know. I think it might be.
At this point, you could tell me everything's somehow connected to the Nazis, and I'd believe you. I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense.
We just got instantly demonetized. Let me search that up. Fanta invented by Nazis. Fanta was created during World War II in Nazi Germany by the German Coca-Cola bottling company.
No fucking way!
Because of the war, there was no shipping between Nazi Germany and the US. Therefore, the German bottling plant could no longer get Coca-Cola syrup. So
we've been supporting. Well, I don't drink Fanta, so I'm not guilty. But
more like fascia. Hey,
yay!
Hey.
All right. We gotta rein it in. It's been we've been on a break, and I don't want to alienate everybody that quickly. There is going to be talk about music on Cranked and Ranked. That's the name of this show. Everybody remember Cranked and Ranked?
Where this shit's gonna rock.
We rank. Yep. On the podcast world, he held up a rock when he said that. I'm sorry, I forget. I
found a quartz at the beach today. It's cool.
I gotta get my bearings back and like remember like how we do this. And so, but the first thing I wanted to do though, because we took a little break, and I've gotten some fan mail, I guess, and I just wanted to like read a few of them, just because, also because I've been doing my website, oldheadnetwork.com. If you go there, there's like a contact form, and people send me emails. Or this particular one that I wanted to start with, I got on Instagram, and it's from, well, they go by the name Beat Keller, but they're like a musician, so I don't know.
I'm familiar with the name.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, in actual fact, I think I might have added them on Facebook.
Oh, okay. So, but the message I got says, "Hey, old head, hello from Switzerland. I'm a big fan of the Cranked and Ranked podcast, and I've been listening to every episode since the beginning, even to the Ted Nugent episode, which that's a good one."
Yeah, I know Beat Keller.
Okay. and fun fact, we're almost the same age. I was born in April of 1978. And then this second paragraph, though. Just wanted to say huge thanks. It was an amazing ride. If you guys would be back at some point, I'd be delighted. If not, just thanks. That, when I read that, which was like a week ago, that made me feel sad because like it made me feel like that's what it's going to be like when we decide to not do this anymore, whenever that might be. And just thanks for an amazing ride. I literally was like, I knew that we weren't stopping, but it still made me feel a little bit emotional.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we got one hell of a body of work going at this point.
Yeah. And sometimes
I was going to say there's probably an obscene amount of Cranked and Ranked lengthwise just on, the airwaves at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, there's a lot to dig into. But then I got a couple of emails, and those weren't like, tear jerkers, but just like some suggestions. Juan sent me a message through oldheadnetwork.com, and he was asking if eventually he would like us to get to Queens of the Stone Age or Foo Fighters. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're both on our list. And I'd be more inclined to do Foo Fighters because they're both bands that I like some stuff they did and I don't really like other stuff they did, but the Foo Fighters seem to have kind of a more varied discography that might be interesting to do at some point. And he said, I also really enjoyed the sidebar episodes about movies. Would love to see more of those. Thanks for the content. Thanks, Juan. That's a good thing to hear. We got to like figure out I think we've had other movie episode ideas as well. And then one last one, and we can get onto the Aerosmith. This guy, this is Daniel. He sent a long email about the Metallica ranking we did. So I won't go into that because he's like, he actually is it's a very well written thing where he's disagreeing on some points or bringing his perspective into it. And I enjoyed reading it. I'm just really bad at like responding to something, especially when it gets that long. That just makes me feel very anxious, and I just put my phone down and walk away. But anyway, at the end of it, his PS is what I'm going to read because I like his PS. He says, cool. P.S. Oh, yeah, and thanks for the clear words towards the ignorant arsehole on the planet, whether it's racist, homophobes, fascists, pedophiles, or haters in general. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. I will always, when that comes up, I'm going to be vocal about it. I'm not one of those people that's like trying to make that my content. So you're never going to see me just be like, everybody talk about this. That's not me. But when it comes up naturally in conversation, I am never going to shy away from talking about the shitty people and how they should go get fucked. And then he has a PPS that says, if I may have a wish, creator...
He's got a
PPS. Yes, he's asking for creator and typo negative. And I was like, ooh, typo negative would be really interesting to rank too. But but once again, I'm sure those are also in our really long list. So we will get to those. So if you have anything that you want to send my way to oldheadnetwork.com, the contact form. I may not read every email on a show, but I think it's good to get to read some suggestions out there, just because I want everybody to know that we are taking into account not only what we want to do, but also what people would like us to do. Because at this point, so many of you have been on board for so long, and it's like, it's fucking great. It's like, it was weird not doing it for a month, because I felt because we record these on Sundays, and I would feel like I had forgotten to do something, and I would just be sitting there going, okay, what was supposed to happen today? Did I forget something? And it was just because I've gotten so used to doing these with you, but we took I think it was a well-deserved break. And then on your part, because you've got changes in your life going on, and it gave you some space. I don't need any space because my wife's awesome. My life's also awesome, but my life is pretty much the same every day. Every week. Like the people that follow me, like especially on social media, you can like predict exactly what I'm going to be doing on any given day, probably. So, anyway.
Yeah. I won't divulge too much, but there is a comment at the top of our most recent upload from the Art of Havoc 55467. It says no new stuff for 4 weeks already. What's going on, mates? It's all good. We're back.
It's all good, man.
It's all good. Okay.
Yeah, guess who's back? Yeah, we're back. Eminem's back. That song's not great though, and I think you probably know. Have you heard the new Eminem song?
I've listened to it. I found it enjoyable for like a fun factor.
Yeah,
there were definitely elements in it where I was like, ooh, okay. Does this feel like trying to recapture the King of Controversy energy, or
I think that was kind of the point. But yeah. But you know, like since we did the Eminem ranking, you know that I'm not a fan of that version of what Eminem did, where he leaned way into the character of himself. And I know that's what he's doing, but the fact that he's done 2 albums in a row that I thought were fucking amazing, and then he comes out with this song, and I go, this is cool, but it's only going to be cool if this is the only song on the album like this, or if there's a point to it, because it's supposed to be like people are commenting that it might be his last album, and if it really is the kind of thing where he's bringing out Slim Shady and being like, hey, see how much of a douchebag this guy is? We're going to kill him off in this. If it's like a really cool like story arc or some weird shit like that, I'm going to enjoy it. But if it's literally just like, hey, I'm going to say some wacky stuff now. I'm like, you already did that, buddy, and you're 50. So
I thought the video was really fun. Him, rapping again, in the same room as his old self, and how they did that. That had to have been obviously AI. Him, them putting old M over the top of new M.
Yeah. I mean, he's got that kind of money for that to be done very well. Anyway, this is not about Eminem, but that's current events. Is that Eminem is back, and we've talked about Eminem before. I don't know if there are any other current events of bands that we've ranked. Lizzie Hale was singing for Skid Row.
Yeah.
And I watched it and thought it wasn't very good. She's a good singer.
Yeah,
but it was weird to me, and I'm still mad at them because Baz has made it clear, like, hey, let's do something, and they went nope, and I'm like, all right, well, you guys are clearly not trying to please any fans out there. So, and I feel like when you become a band like that, where you do consistently go out and play the same songs over and over again for 20 years, you're doing fan service. Yeah. The ultimate fan service would be get over your shit and do a reunion tour. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Oh, one thing I will say before we get cracking.
Yeah.
They finally reissued the Tony Martin era Black Sabbath albums.
Yeah.
And I fucking love most of that stuff. Like, it's killer.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. My problem was when it came out, I went to go see how much it was, and I was like, this is too expensive for how much I actually want these on vinyl. So I'm just gonna wait, because I know sometimes those box sets will come out and like 6 months later, Amazon will have some crazy deal where it's $80, and I'm like, all right, cool. Then I'm gonna go and do it, because I'm actually curious to hear the Forbidden remix that Iommi did. I mean, I don't think it needed to be remixed, but I'm always fascinated to hear, like, what were there any improvements? Is it actually better? Did they just remove Ice-T altogether so the morons would stop complaining?
All I'll say is Headless Cross is one of the most underrated 80s metal albums ever.
It's great. It's great. We also did Black Sabbath. This is all working into shows we've done, guys. We haven't go all the way back. There's so much cranking and ranking we've done, and wanking. We've done all of that. But anyway, speaking of wanking, we're going to be talking about Aerosmith.
Yes.
Aerosmith. Sorry. we already did that earlier.
Yeah. Aerosmith and Pearl Jam.
Whoa.
Van Halen. Van Halen's going to be there. And an old man fashioning a kayak out of a log.
No, that's but I do.
Why
I've
would
always
we want to look at your eye? Is there something wrong with that weird eye?
we did the Wayne's World movie show a little while ago too that you can go check out. But I've always really loved Dana Carvey's delivery of that laugh after he says Aerosmith and Pearl Jam, and he goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. Anyway, all right, on to Aerosmith, which is related to Wayne's World. I even have an Aerosmith maxi single. I can't remember I think it might be for Love in an Elevator or something, but it's on the B side. It's got from the episode of Saturday Night Live them doing the Wayne's World theme with Wayne and Garth.
No way.
And so it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. But anyway.
Awesome.
Aerosmith. We're doing a two-parter because they got 15 albums, and we're doing the bottom 7, which when I say bottom 7 for me, like Aerosmith is one of my favorite bands. Funny enough, years ago, we did an episode where I talked about my top 5 bands, and I would say Aerosmith is no longer anywhere in that top 5. But, here's the thing. Like I really feel like when music is literally your life, like everything in you is just there's constantly music in either in your head or going on around you, or you're making it or whatever. When that's your life, your taste and opinions in music are ever evolving. I really feel like if you're set with this is my favorite stuff and it's never going to change, then you might as well just die, because there's no point in what's the point, because like it's not just new music coming into your life. You got to be open to new stuff, but also stuff that you didn't necessarily, maybe you took it for granted, or maybe you didn't necessarily appreciate certain aspects and now you do, but you got to give yourself that opportunity to do that. And I've done that a lot. I mean, very recently with Toto, I'm pretty much just a Toto fan now.
Yeah.
Because I bought the first album because we also did Ranked Toto a long time ago. But I got the first album because I love that album so much. But then I was like, I'm going to get the second one, because you can find through Discogs original copies of those albums that are in good shape. They're not super expensive, because in the 70s and 80s, they made so many fucking records that there's just a lot of them out there. So I got the second one, Hydra, and I was like, oh, this is fucking great. And then I got the third one, what's Turned Back is the third one.
Yep.
And every single album, and now I'm up to Isolation. That's the newest one I got. But every single album, I go, all right, I'm going to stop buying Toto albums when there's an album that doesn't make me go, ooh, and that hasn't happened yet. Yep. So there's tracks on every single album where I just go, oh shit, that's good. Every fucking album. So now I got to move on to what's the 1986 album? I don't
Fahrenheit.
remember. Fahrenheit
is the next one.
Yeah. So
over you.
Yeah, well, I know that song. So that's what I'm saying. Like, 5 years ago, or even when we did the Toto ranking, I never would have said, oh, I'm going to get really into Toto, even though I appreciated things about them. And lo and behold, here we are. I'm all like, Toto fucking rules. Anyway.
Yeah.
So Aerosmith is still one of my favorites, but things move around. But I got into Aerosmith when I was a kid, which was Walk This Way with Run DMC.
Nice.
That was my first exposure to Aerosmith, and I was really into Run DMC. And because they did a song with this band, I was like, ooh, this band's obviously fucking cool. They're doing a song with Run DMC. And then I think soon after that is when they put out Permanent Vacation. So I knew Dude Looks Like a Lady, Ragdoll, Angel. I knew those songs a lot. And then I remember later on when Pump came out, I bought Pump when it came out on cassette. So I would have been, I don't know, 12, 11, 12, something like that. and loved it. Still love that album today. And then, from that point on, I've had Aerosmith has just kind of been in and out of my life, where they put out something, I've liked things about it. And then as I got a little older, I really got into like collecting Aerosmith because I realized that just listening to their music, I'm just like, I always just have a fucking great time. Like whatever album it is, I have a great time. And so that's my history. With it, I'm sure with Aerosmith, you probably heard them early just because they get played a lot everywhere.
Yeah, it was a combination of that. I knew a lot of their songs from just hearing them when I was a kid. And then obviously I saw the Wayne's World movies. And I actually saw the Wayne's World films before I fully got into rock and metal. So Wayne's World 1 and 2 made me passively enjoy hard rock of that era. But honestly, like, it wasn't until we did these episodes, because they were always kind of a hits band for me, where they would come on and I'd be like, this song fucking rules. But it wasn't like Kiss where I just suddenly had this like urge to deep dive, Aerosmith always struck me as they're really good at hit songs. And a big thing for me is this bad boy. I remember this was in my this was in my mom's car.
It's one of the greatest hits collections. The best of what's the subtitle at the bottom? What's it called?
Devil's Got a New Disguise.
Okay,
and it's got this is the Aerosmith I knew. So I knew nothing about 70s Aerosmith. I only knew 80s, 90s Aerosmith. So it was dude looks like a lady, loving an elevator, living on the edge, walk this way. Obviously the Run DMC version. Crying, Jaded, Crazy, Angel, Janie's Got a Gun, Amazing. The Other Side, Dream On, Sweet Emotion. Sweet Emotion is an older one. Falling in Love is hard on the knees. Pink, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Everybody's heard I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Sedona Sunrise, and Devil's Got a New Disguise. Those are the new tracks. New. I was 8 when they came out, so
yeah. Well, to be fair, the Sweet Emotion and Dream On both had resurgence, or like they got popular again in the 90s. So it kind of makes sense that they threw those songs on there because they both had success in various things. I mean, Sweet Emotion was the opening track in Dazed and Confused, like one of the best 90s movies, really, arguably, which is funny because it's about the 70s, which means if it came out today, it would be about the early 2000s.
The time frame of shit is fucked up. Like I remember, like honestly, what is it? GTA San Andreas, my favorite game of all time, turns 20 years old this year.
Yeah,
it was 3 years old when I bought it, and it is set in 1992. We have long surpassed that amount of time between the game and the period it's set in than the game and now. So like that's fucking crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, it's weird. Weird.
It's just more proof that era, well, those separate eras, 70s, 80s, 90s, there's nothing that cool has happened since. Maybe it'll happen again. Maybe I'll be long gone. I don't know, but hasn't really yet. But I mean, in that respect, where you could make a movie set in a time period and everybody can just see it and know when it is. Yeah. But I guess the only way people would know early 2000s is people would have Nokias. They'd have Nokia phones. Yeah.
And Jinko jeans.
Oh yeah, or that. Maybe they should do that. Maybe they should.
Chain wallets, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I had a chain wallet back in the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So Aerosmith. Are you done with that? Do you want to move on to the ranking?
Yeah. Let's dive right in.
Okay. So bottom 7.
Yes.
And yeah, there's none of these albums that I don't enjoy. So this will be an interesting ranking, and you're fairly new to most of it, I think.
I am almost completely new to most Aerosmith deep cuts. I just knew I knew all of the big songs
Yeah,
before doing this, and like honestly, where have I been?
that's all right.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter when it happens as long as it happens. So,
exactly.
well,
Yeah.
let's start it off as usual. I throw it over to Eddie to start us off. So, what is your number 15 Aerosmith album?
Well, in the spirit of general cranked and ranked fare, if an album isn't of original material, it almost always gets default setting to the bottom of the list,
Yeah,
solely based on oh, let's put an album out. It's the first one in a few years, but it's going to be the last one for a long time, and then you do one more. But this is an album. First of all, we need to acknowledge the fact that "Honkin' on Bobo" is a terrible album title. like, like.
this is also my number 15, by the way.
Yeah, it's just
Honkin' on
fucking,
Bobo. It's supposed to be slang for playing harmonica, I believe.
yeah, but it just unfortunately it just ends up sounding like someone hurling on an ape, you know.
Honkin' on Bobo.
And it's an album consisting of blues covers, and they're cool. There is an original on here called "The Grind,"
Yep.
but honestly, it's exactly what it says it is. It's Aerosmith doing a blues covers album, and it's cool. It's certainly cool, but it is one of those things where am I going to have any real incentive to come back to this album beyond the fact that it's a blues focused album?
Yeah.
And if I'm thinking Aerosmith, I'm thinking either big bombastic hits or just rootsy 70s rock. And I'm never going to think of this when I approach Aerosmith, ironically, because this is what their influences are. But it feels like the least essential Aerosmith album, solely based on the fact that like almost none of it is original material. So
yeah. I agree with all that. The thing for me that sets this album way above most covers albums is they didn't just decide to do a cover album of fucking songs everybody knows and everybody's covered. Like like when we did Warrant and they did a covers album, and it was like, holy shit, I feel like these songs were covered by every other band of the era too. And it's just, so these are ones that most of the songs I don't even think I'd ever even heard before. So it's cool because it's like, if I was into it enough, it would expose me to like new music. But it also, it feels pretty fresh because I'm just like, well, I don't know a lot of these songs. But I think it's got a really good energy. It's really enjoyable for a covers album. I think it's one of the better ones. But yeah, it's not a go-to for me just because when you strip out the for lack of a better term, the big dick energy of most Aerosmith, it doesn't do it for me. So I don't just want the bluesy rock stuff. It's got to have the balls, if you will, I guess. I think that's a dated term, saying balls, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It needs Steven Tyler's balls specifically. But yeah, so Honkin' on Bobo is also my number 15.
Cool. So I guess from that we can jump straight on. So my number 14, is it? My number 14 Aerosmith album is Just Push Play. And my reasons are, it's very of its time. It's a very early 2000s album, and it has that like unavoidable reality TV almost energy to it, to where it's like, welcome to Aerosmith's house. We're gonna do X thing today, and a lot of like 70s 80s hard rock bands doing albums at this time they just all remind me of Rock of Love, and I just cannot take my mind off it. you know, and there's even like a new metal vibe on some songs, which, you know, is understandable. It's in the early 2000s, but
Yeah.
you know, upon listening to it, I enjoyed it. Like I wouldn't say that there's an Aerosmith album I didn't at least enjoy a little bit.
Yeah.
But honestly, it just everything else here just beat it further and further down. And I would say like this and the albums next to it are on a pretty even keel. I
Yeah.
just, you know, this one landed in the middle of like my bottom three, and I guess that's just it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
That and the early 2000s to me is an era that can either age charmingly well
Mhm.
or fucking like embarrassingly badly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is no in between, you know. So honestly, yeah, it's early 2000s Aerosmith. Do with that tagline as you will.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I don't 100% agree with all of that. Because it's not as low for me. My number 14 is their most recent album, Music from Another Dimension. Music from Another Dimension, because there's a exclamation point.
That's my number 13. So we'll camp out here for a little bit.
Sweet. So that's from 2012, and quite possibly their last album. I mean, I know they're doing a farewell tour, and they're getting up there in age to the point where I mean, I guess every time I think that, I also just saw footage of the fucking Rolling Stones still playing shows. So I guess who the fuck knows. But
I personally, I think they've done what Kiss did. They got to the early 2010s and were like, we've got a hell of a legacy to just ride out.
Yeah.
You know.
So, and it's fine because this album is actually a really good album for a band that far in their career in 2012.
Yeah.
You know, like their 15th release, but 14th like album of original material. So I'm always very surprised at how strong of an album it is. It is unfortunately way too long. You made a good point. It's kind of interchangeable with their basically their post 2000s output. There's I mean, I guess even the last album of the 90s for them too. There sometimes if I'm not really paying attention, I'll just be sort of hearing a song and I'll have to go, what album is this from? Because you can kind of take something from Music from Another Dimension and put it on just push play or whatever. But to be fair, that's something I could also say about 70s going into 80s Aerosmith as well, where they did put out albums where I can go, well, I don't remember which album this is on. But good on them for, you know, putting out a solid album. I mean, I look behind me, I got it on vinyl. I got all of them on vinyl except for one. I don't have just push play because I don't think it's been reissued in any form. So there's probably one vinyl pressing and it's expensive as shit. But yeah, Music from Another Dimension, it's enjoyable, and it's probably their last album. So I'm throwing it over to you.
Yeah. So this album for me, definitely, it sounds like a modernized blend of everything they've ever done, and it's okay. But I don't have anything, you know, from it that's necessarily, you know, dragging me back to listen to it for another go around. I'm sure you loved the Carrie Underwood song.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not. There's certain artists that you know that sometimes they end up collabing. I mean, that's not the first time they've done that kind of thing. But I mean, I guess their music lends itself well to people who also listen to pop country, I guess, which is weird, but you know.
Yeah, and you know, to you know, modern pop country's credit, one thing I will give it is that it seems to be the one genre nowadays that doesn't seem to be afraid to have that rock and roll, you know, maybe hip hop too, but hip hop has its own idea of, what's cool. But I definitely think like the rock and roll excess vibe went over the country a little bit, even though they are some elements of it, like a bit of the swagger. But all in all, just coming back around to Aerosmith, I definitely think that the album is way too long. And honestly, that's a problem that has existed since the invention of the CD runtime for bands of this size, where it's like, we can fit 74 minutes on an album now. And it's like, you don't have to do 74 minutes. If that extra fucking 20 isn't good, just don't put it on there. But that is something that would plague a lot of albums of the 90s and onward, honestly. But yeah, like I say, it's a good effort from a band this late in the game.
Yeah.
But considering what came before it, it had to go somewhere, and this is where it went.
Yep. Cool. My number 13, going back a little bit to 1997 for 9 Lives, which is their 12th album. So this is it's still an album filled with what I think are a lot of great songs. The big thing for me with this album is listening to their discography. It's because you have these big albums, Permanent Vacation, Pump, Get a Grip, and then 9 Lives was also a big album at the time, but I don't think that the memorable songs are there. And the ones that were the singles aren't singles that I still hear and go, oh, fuck yeah. They're just kind of like songs on the album. And so it still has that great Aerosmith energy, but it just drags a little bit. And it is an album that sits in between 2 albums that I would rather listen to more. And so, because I'll listen to Get a Grip anytime, and I think that Just Push Play is actually pretty damn good. So, so 9 Lives is like that one in the middle where I go, well, it's got songs I like, songs that I could do without, but overall it's fine. It's 90s Aerosmith, and it doesn't. Yeah, it's not. It's probably out of all of these, the last one that I wouldn't just throw on randomly sometime of their albums. Everything from this point on, I could find myself seeing the album cover and going, "Ooh, I'm gonna listen to that." But so that goes here at number 13, 9 Lives.
Well, the cool thing about this is I can jump straight off of that because my number 12 is 9 Lives.
Nice.
And honestly, it's one of those albums where it's like there's good stuff on it, but again, it's way too long. This is kind of the Aerosmith. The Aerosmith had like a comeback trilogy where it was like, holy shit, Permanent Vacation, they're back, and a bunch of people who didn't know Aerosmith before suddenly know Aerosmith. Pump, they doubled down, and it's like, god damn, dude, these guys are unstoppable. Then they do Get a Grip, and it's like, holy fucking shit, these guys are dominating. And then you get 9 Lives, and it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Aerosmith have been killing it, and this is, we expect it now, that Aerosmith is just like, part of the rock zeitgeist at that point. And I think honestly, I mean, Falling in Love is harder than these, and Pink, to me, are the like most memorable songs to my ear from this album. But honestly, again, it's cool. I think it could have done with being about 20 minutes shorter. But that again, that's just a 90s CD problem. And at the time, I think the idea was, hey, you can skip them, so you don't have to listen to everything. They were probably thinking value for money at the time, but in terms of running order, LP wise, or as a full album listen, it's not the strongest. It's got some filler on it, but above all else, it's 90s Aerosmith.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's the 90s Aerosmith album that isn't Get a Grip,
Yeah.
So,
but it was the one that came out post, if I remember right, post the Armageddon song. So
I think it came out before that. I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because Armageddon was 98, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe so. Maybe you're right.
Would have been the same era though, yeah.
But around that time, like I think that's when they became, because like the different periods in their career, there's a new generation of people, and they're like, "Hey, we're Aerosmith," and everyone's like, "Cool." But by that point, everybody just knew Aerosmith. Like I feel like they'd gotten to the point now where like you were born and your mom had a CD of Aerosmith or whatever,
Yeah.
So it gets to the point where there's no more reintroductions. They're just Aerosmith and everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on to my number 12, which is Just Push Play from 2001.
Okay. Cool.
Their 13th album. So I love that that 2001 rolled around and they were still like putting out like quality shit. Even at the time, I just remember seeing the music video for the single Jaded, which I still think is an amazing song. And like a really well-written song. I do think it's one of those that they worked with a songwriter for, but I don't know that for certain. Because that's the thing about Aerosmith though, is that, starting with Permanent Vacation, they collaborated with other songwriters. And so you'll hear a song and go, oh, this seems so well written and ready, for radio. This has got to be one of those. But there are songs that I'll go look at and I go, holy fuck, this is all just Steven Tyler. And so there's still songs that are amazing that, they didn't necessarily have to rely on the collaborations, but it definitely didn't hurt at all. But this album is like a lot of great performances and a lot of great songs. I feel like for an album that came out in 2001, I think for what you were saying, it falls on the charming side because the little modern touches in the album, I think fit it perfectly. It really does feel like a good representation of, a rock band their size at that time while still putting out like a quality album, like not just phoning it in. That being said, a few weaker spots here and there, but overall, I think it's a very strong album. And it's that. Like I said, at this point, I don't really have a lot of big gripes. I would happily listen to just Push Play. Okay, let's put out a vinyl reissue, guys. Start doing that shit. I feel like they're working their way up because they got like some sort of new deal with some company, and so they're going to be putting out more stuff. And I think they have more control over what they're putting out now or something like that. And so all that shit's going to get re-released because money. And people like me will happily spend it. So anyway, so that means that means we've killed off all of the 2000s and late 90s albums at this point, which I'm sure that is no surprise to anybody out there. But really from this point on, this is where it's going to get interesting because I don't think either one of us is going to put Pump or Get a Grip low. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think this is where the real conversations start because I think everyone would be perfectly fine with our ranking from here if you're an Aerosmith fan. But let's move on.
Yeah, this is where things get interesting. So, honestly, the next 3 albums in this episode that we are gonna talk about on each end. I want to preface this by saying I enjoyed all of them. This is merely an order of preference at this point because Aerosmith are damn good at both incarnations of themselves. That being said, my number 11 is Rock in a Hard Place.
Hey, same here.
Hey, cool.
Nice.
So this album to me is like, it's this like weird middle point where I can't even really call it a transitional album because they don't really break from what they were doing before. It just seems like an all over the place version of what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's the only album with Jimmy Crespo on guitar. It doesn't have Joe Perry. Joe Perry was doing the Joe Perry project. Yeah.
So we got Jimmy Crespo. Didn't Brad Whitford leave for a bit? He
also left. He may not be on this album. I think he left during not Rock and Hard Place, Night in the Ruts. I think he may have left during that.
Brad Whitford, it does rhythm guitar on Lightning Strikes.
Okay, so he I guess he left during this album.
Yeah, so
it is definitely a transitional album because there was a lot of, this was like the height of, I guess, drama with the Aerosmith camp because Brad was doing his own thing as well. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like, it's a culmination of everything that had built to that point and then just exploding. There were drug problems all over the place. Steven Tyler, I think it wasn't like Steven Tyler's heroin addiction at like its worst at this point. Was it heroin? It's usually heroin.
I'm just probably fucking everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
The interesting thing from my perspective with Aerosmith though is that this is the one album that I enjoy this album, but knowing what I know about the behind the scenes drama and all of the infighting and all this other shit and drug use, they still put out fantastic fucking albums. This is the first one where I go, all right, well, this is fine, but if you were gonna that's the thing is like being a band where when technically you're at your worst as a unit, you're still putting out albums that I think are fucking great.
Yeah.
And then this one, which is, it's fine. It's a fine album.
Yeah. It like we say, is a fine album, but it's nowhere near the top 10 albums that clearly we're in agreement in our top 10 to some extent,
Yeah, so far, yes.
Got the same 10 albums in the top 10. It's just a case of what order they go in.
Yeah. With Rock in a Hard Place, it's like I was saying earlier, like that at this point they had just been making Aerosmith albums.
Yeah.
And not really like they're not an experimental band. They're not trying to change things up. But once you get to this album, you're like, okay, well, this is just a good Aerosmith album, but there's a lot of those. So, where does it go? So.
Yeah. Jailbait's a tune. And
it's a fun tune.
The Crimea River cover was just like, I was listening to this album and I thought, is this fucking Crimea River? It's Crimea River. Holy shit. And credit to him for doing a bit of a out of the box cover. But again, it's just when stacked up to the 10 albums that rank above it, I mean, it's very clear that it's an all over the place album that reflects the all over the place nature of the situation at the time.
Yeah. No disrespect to Jimmy Crespo. I'm sure that guy came in and did his best, and he's a great guitar player. So it's just one of those things where he had to come in and fill that position, and who knows what that was like for him. I don't really know, but it had to have been crazy.
Yeah. It's a weird one. It's cool as an outlier. I have a soft spot for outlier albums like you, where it's like, the fuck happened here? But in the same breath, I'm like, I want to give it a fair shot. But ultimately, Rock in a Hard Place ends up just outside the top 10. Because Rock in a Hard Place is all over the place. So, with that, over to I guess back over to me. Uno reverse card.
Oh yeah. So now we're at 10. All right. Yeah. So we're at the top. We're at the top 10. I wonder how long. So this one we could still match up. I think the next one we're definitely not going to match up. But let's see.
Okay. My number 10 is A Night in the Ruts.
Oh no, we're not. No,
No?
not matching for me. I really like that album a lot.
Again, like I say, it's really cool. It's really cool.
It's got fucking Chiquita on it.
Yeah, it does.
Oh man, that riff is fucking killer. It's killer.
Absolutely. And like upon like looking at the track lists for this, I began to realize, holy shit, there is 3 covers on Night in the Ruts.
There is, yes.
And I got to thinking, this...
It's their Diver Down.
I was about to say it's Diver Down, but Aerosmith doing Diver Down. It's... like I say, where have I got here? A Night in the Ruts. This is the album where Aerosmith began to fall apart behind the scenes. From what from what I know, I mean, I haven't done a massive amount of research. You're the Aerosmith historian.
I think
out of the two of us.
I think famously, a lot of people say that "Draw the Line" was when the big riffs started, between everybody started to happen. But this one was like legit falling apart, I think, while the album was being recorded. So
yeah, and it's cool. It's really cool. And here's the thing: it's a 9-track album. 33.33% of the music on it is cover. So I got to thinking, I docked a cover album already for that, and I'm gonna have to do it here too, because really there's only actually like an EP's worth of original material on this album. That being said, the original material on it is very good. And it's really good, fun 70s rock and roll. I just think this, you can kind of tell they're like, shit's going crazy here. Let's cover 3 songs and, we'll just throw the other 6 on here too. It ended up being a really fun record. And that's why it made it to the number 10 for me. But I also, here's how I approach my list. I've essentially done what I did the first time around with my Kiss ranking, and I have ranked 70s and 80s Kiss side by side in an alternating pattern, basically, because it is just, in the end, I thought this is like ranking 2 bands in one. For the most part, there are some twists and turns, there are some surprises, but all in all, Night in the Ruts, something had to go at 10 out of these 10 fantastic albums. And for me, A Night in the Ruts just so happened to land there. Could be further up by next week. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, with that, over to you.
My number 10 is the comeback album that wasn't. That's Done with Mirrors from 1985. Which like that, so that was, it was the band gets back together, the classic Aerosmith lineup gets back together, and they make what is to me a really good sounding album. Like there is 80s production that is kind of over the top, and I enjoy that. But then there's 80s production that's like that, the 1985, where it's like still pretty thick. It's still got a lot of reverb, but it still sounds thick. And I really like the way
exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I really like the way this album sounds. But unfortunately, just like with Rock in a Hard Place, this is just more of the same. There's not, and this is the last one where they were the sole songwriters, the members of the band. And so clearly they needed, a shot in the arm or something, whatever. But I do really enjoy this album. And the fact that like the one that was, the one big single off of it was literally a song from Joe Perry Project first album. Like they just redid Joe Perry's song, but with Steven Tyler singing it. It's still a fun album. And I also really like, I don't have that one I chose 6 albums to put behind me, but I'll do that one next time. But I really like the Done with Mirrors cover because it's backwards and you have to hold it in a mirror to actually see the cover and the words the right way around.
That's the thing as well. You know what I fucking hate about that is that on streaming it's facing the right way, and it's like, oh come on, man, don't defeat the object.
Yeah, it's baloney. You can hold your phone up to a mirror. Come on. But I think probably they're thinking about the average listener that would just think it was a mistake. You know,
that's fucking stupid. We're too easy on stupid people these days, man.
100%. Yeah, it's like it feels like it was a bit rushed, and I think it probably was because they were like, well, you guys are back together, let's throw something out there because the news of you guys getting back together, the momentum's there, people are ready to hear an album, and they went, cool, here's what we got, and it just didn't really do that well. But luckily for them, they topped it with something that actually was a comeback album. But Done with Mirrors is definitely one that I enjoy the vibe of it so much that I just listen to it and have a great time. It doesn't really matter that the songs don't necessarily stand out for me, but it's a good album. I don't think it deserves a top 10 spot, so it ends up being at number 10.
Cool.
Last one. We are on number 9, the last album for the comeback. This is our comeback episode. This is our Done with Mirrors episode of Ranked and Ranked. The next one will be better.
Okay, so in a shocking turn of events, I had to think about what I love about Aerosmith, and part of it is that sorry, I kind of stumbled over my words there. What I mean is that characteristic of Aerosmith sounded like Aerosmith, and as it turns out, my number 9 is the debut. It is Aerosmith.
Yeah, it's obviously not going to be in this episode for me, but I absolutely get it. Especially since Steven Tyler doesn't sing like Steven Tyler in the album for the most part.
It's fucking weird. I remember hearing this album for the first time, and I never even realized Dream On until shockingly late that Dream On was an Aerosmith song, because I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, that doesn't sound like Steven Tyler. They must have had a different singer early on. And then I looked at the fucking album cover, and lo and behold, there he is. And I was like, yeah, I just thought to myself, what the fuck? What the so yeah, what version of the cover have you got there? You've got the they're close up.
Yeah, this is the one.
It's the second pressing.
Yeah, it was repressed. I think after they kind of blew up a little bit. I think that one actually was after Toys in the Attic. Toys in the Attic came out, and then I think that they Dream On was re-released as a single, and so this is the 76 or something pressing.
Right.
But honestly, I got that one on purpose because I've never understood why it's a picture of the sky with a tiny picture of the band, and I really like the picture of the band because they look fucking 70s as fuck.
Yeah, that is a very 70s image. I mean,
yeah, and so I actually sought out this pressing because I wanted to get the earliest one I could get that had the big picture of Aerosmith. So
very nice.
Yeah,
it's cool. I mean, the tracks on it. The tracks on it. I mean, Make It, Somebody, Dream On, One Way Street, Mama Kin, Write Me a Letter, Moving Out, Walking the Dog. I mean, it's a crisp 8 tracks, clocking in at 36 minutes, or 35, 48 if you want to be, very specific about it. Actually, it clocks in at 35, 48.
That just reminds me. Sorry, it's tangent time. Sorry, guys. It's not really a tangent. Time. But I think I may have sent this to you, but speaking of British people, my favorite thing that's trending on TikTok right now is I like to eat baked beans cold from the tin.
Yeah.
Oh, so do I. What's her name? She's from Absolutely Fabulous. I don't know what
Yeah,
her name. The blonde lady from Absolutely Fabulous.
I
It's
know
some sort of interview with her and an older British guy. She's like, I like to eat baked beans cold from the tin. He's like, oh, so do I. And it almost sounds sexual the way they're talking about it.
Yeah. She's got a way of saying shit that just sounds.
Yeah.
It just sounds sexy. What's her name?
Cheers. Thanks a lot. That's my impression of her. Have you ever seen Absolutely Fabulous?
Yeah.
She's. I think she was on a TV show on the show or something, and she froze up and she just kept going. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Over and over again.
Joanna Lumley. There she is.
Yeah. Do you like to eat? Do you
hot.
like to eat baked beans cold from the tin?
I can't say I've ever done it. To be fair, yeah.
I think we should. You know what? I think we should do that. Should be an episode. Let's both go get a can of baked beans and then just find out if it's actually, because they're so excited about talking about it. It makes me want to try it.
I feel like there's just, I just know that there's going to be some sensory issue where I'm going to be like, oh man, it's so brainwashed almost in me. It's like, this is supposed to be warm. This is wrong.
And on toast.
Yeah, and on toast. Yeah. Or in a jacket potato.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Oh man, now I want a baked potato. That's like, oh damn, that's like.
You ever done that? You ever done that?
Jacket potato.
Good old
I've jacked a lot of potatoes in my day. Let me tell you.
Is jacket potato with baked beans over there good? You ever done that?
Is it well? Like, are you saying is it like a baked potato that's like cut open and then you
cut open? You cut it open. You kind of mash some butter into it, and then you put the hot baked beans on top.
I've never done it with baked beans over here. Like the baked potato is like you get it loaded over here, so it's got like cheese, bacon, sour cream. You literally, but you do that like what you described, and you just load it with all this different stuff. My favorite thing to do, and I think my wife made this not long ago, where we did a baked potato, and she made brisket and put brisket in the baked potato. Dude, that's like the best fucking thing ever. Now that I'm thinking about it, I got to like go as soon as we're done and be like, babe, when can we do brisket baked potato again? Write that down. Brisket baked potato. Okay, cool. Anyway, babe, I just thought about that because when you do your like British guy kind of voice, not your normal one where you can't tell where you're from really.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got the transatlantic version of British accents.
Yeah. But it just made me think of that because every time that video pops up or somebody miming it or whatever, it just makes me giggle just because I love the way that she says that. I like baked beans cold from the tin. Anyway, all right. So where are we going from here?
It's
Aerosmith. The self-titled Aerosmith album. Okay.
The debut. I think it's great. I think they went on to much greater heights. And I think I have to ask this now. Is this Steven Tyler's normal voice and then he just discovered the Steven Tyler voice? Or did he genuinely sing like someone else because he was
He I think has gone on record to say he was nervous about his singing voice and he wanted it to sound more bluesy. And he thought that when he sang like that, it sounded better at the time. But then eventually when they went on to do their second album, the producer was like, you just got to sing like you sing, dude.
Yeah.
And there's some songs on the first album where it's not quite as affected, but when you hear Make It, when that first song comes in, and you're just like, oh, this is a different Steven Tyler. But that doesn't matter to me at all. I've gotten so used to his voice on it that the overall vibe of that album is so fucking good. It is not in this episode for me.
Cool.
Plus, you got Mama Kin. Mama Kin famously covered by Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, Mama Kin's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But all in all, that brings
it's another brick in the wall, of Aerosmith.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to try and come up with something witty, but
I did. I covered you.
Nice.
One day we'll get to Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Very nice.
All right. So this one is I did not expect this one to be in your bottom. of this episode, but it had to go here because I have to admit that this album to me is not as good as its popularity. So don't worry, I'm not going where some people think I'm going. My number 9 is Permanent Vacation from 1987.
Okay.
It was their comeback album. It was the first actual Aerosmith that I ever heard. So, the songs are, meaningful for me in that respect. But there's something about this album, and it's the first one where they collaborated with other songwriters. And I think that's probably what I hear in it. There's a weird transitional vibe where it's good, but it almost feels like they hadn't quite figured out the push and pull between working with other people that weren't in Aerosmith. And so there's good songs. To me, the only standout track, the one that I will put on and go, fuck yeah, is Angel, which I think is one of the best power ballads ever.
Wow. Okay.
There's plenty of other stuff, but I have to admit, Dude Looks Like a Lady and Ragdoll are both kind of obnoxious for Aerosmith songs.
Yeah.
But I like them, but in the world of the Aerosmith hit single, those are way at the bottom for me. Like there's so many better, singles that they released than those two. But that being said, I do enjoy the 1987 production on this. It's a little more big and reverb-ish and I don't know. It's got that vibe. It sounds very 80s.
It's the hair metal rebrand.
It's the hair metal rebrand. While it may not be one of my favorites or really a go-to for me, it's fun, and I appreciate it because it is a necessary and important album in the Aerosmith discography. Because, if this one wasn't successful, if they had it done with Mirrors 2, what would have happened? Because this is literally, they started getting off drugs. They did Done with Mirrors. It didn't do well, but they continued being sober and worked on the next album. I feel like there's an alternate reality where this album flopped and they got back on drugs and somebody dies, and because it's just like, I don't know, at that point, without Permanent Vacation, you don't have Pump, and Pump to me is one of the best rock albums ever. So I look at this album and I go, man, I have gripes about it, but I do enjoy it, and it is 100% one of the most important Aerosmith albums. So it goes in number 9, and it closes out this episode for me. But, it's really like it gets to that point. Whenever we do rankings of bands that are like where I love all of their albums, there's always that one where I'm kind of torn, and I go, well, it's an important one, but it's definitely I can't put it in the top because I think they did so much better after this album and so much better before this album. But this is kind of like the, what do you call it? Why do I want to say fulcrum? And that's probably not right, but you know what I'm saying? Like a point where like there's the things kind of do a cross and boom. Now they are on their way to the most success they ever had. So anyway, that's my number 9. Permanent Vacation. So, but yeah, as soon as I put that as my number 9, I go, this is not going to be in Eddie's top or in bottom.
Yeah, I'm a shameless lover of all things 80s cheese, and that album has it in spades.
Absolutely.
In actual fact, I think there are literal spades on that fucking album cover. Let me find it.
I think you're right. Well, I got it behind me. There's guitars. There's flowers. There's cards. There's a card. There's Ace of Spades, I believe, on the thing.
Cool.
A lot going on. It's also kind of an iconic album cover too. Like I see it. It's one of those ones that like, oh, this definitely. Plus, when you have a logo that good, like just put that as the fucking album cover. And so,
Absolutely. Yeah.
anyway,
I always kind of liked the pattern they chose for it too, because it's got it's got the title worked in. It's got a bunch of stuff going on, but it's all kept to like a 2-block color gradient, apart from the logo that stands out. But
yeah, and then the logo is what pops, which makes it like a perfect cover for a comeback album. Like it's like here's fucking Aerosmith, everybody.
And honestly, all of the images worked into that pattern are just so indicative of exactly when this album came out, man.
Yeah.
It's like,
the thing that
rock and roll is.
I'll probably bring this up on the next episode a lot for sure, but I remember like one of the things that, more recently totally blew me away about Steven Tyler is like I was watching. So this was like before I moved to Houston. So this would have been around 2019 or 2020 that I was watching. And so at that point I would have been, in my early 40s, 41 probably at that point. And I remember watching the making of Pump. And at one point, Steven Tyler says like, I just celebrated like my 41st birthday or something like that. And I was like, he's my age and he's singing like that. Like a 40-year-old man. You listen to the vocal, we'll get to Pump, but you listen to the vocals on Pump, fucking insane. That like so many people get to be a little bit older and they don't become stronger vocalists. Some do, most don't. And so like I hear like later day, even now, like Steven Tyler's not obviously he's an old man now, but I hear live footage of him singing and I'm like, man, he's fucking, for his age, he's one of the best vocalists for that age. So anyway, it just blows me away that like, I start thinking like, oh man, I'm old now, I'm 41, and they were making Pump. So pretty crazy.
That's wild. Honestly, anyway. And I'm even looking at him now, and I've got to be honest, like I've always thought he looked cooler with the facial hair now,
Yeah.
I mean, I know he didn't rock that for a long period of time, but I always thought the mustache suited him. Yeah.
I mean, he's one of those people that's blessed with a nice chiseled, interesting face, and then there's people like me that just have these fucking fat, stupid faces, and so I grow a beard.
Well, the beard's very badass. So,
thank you.
That's okay.
The Van Dyke thing is going really good for you there. I'm into it. Is that, do they call that over there the Van Dyke?
The Van Dyke. I don't know. I've just been calling this a goatee.
Well, the goatee is this, and then the combo of the mustache and the goatee is a Van Dyke. I don't know where that comes from. Now I want to Google that.
Let's have a look. We've been pretty tangent light this episode. Let's go off on a
before we let everybody go.
Van Dyke beard.
Damn it, I can't even type. I'm going to leave it to you.
The Van Dyke would be what I have if I got rid of this bit here. So it's the mustache and then the goatee, but I've just got the whole
interesting.
thing going on.
I did not know that. Because that's what... So the beard that you have was like my first beard when I was like late teens. Yeah. I grew it out. Honestly, my entire beard game was literally set by characters in Kevin Smith movies. So like Clerks came out, and then I did my beard like yours because Dante has a beard like that. And then later on, I think it was either in Mallrats or Chasing Amy, Jason Lee had the one where you take the beard that you're doing, but then you have the chops connected down like that to it. Yeah. And I did that for a little while. And then, of course, later on in my life, I just let everything fucking grow out. So
yeah, I've always wanted to do the Hetfield, but this fucking part here never joined up enough, to pull it off. Yeah.
That's whatever looks good. Everyone, we're good looking gentlemen. All right, everybody. Yeah. You should be glad that we're back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But that's the end of this episode. We'll be back with part 2 of Aerosmith. and then I don't know where we're going from there. But we will. I mean, we're still kicking it. No need to tell us it's been a great ride. So yet.
Yeah. Absolutely. That is a long way off. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it's, so thanks, obviously, peanut butter platypuses and aluminium squirrels and Belvedere ball sitters and Christmas dogs. You're all the list eventually is going to get so long that I'm going to forget them. But right now we're doing okay. So
the California raisins,
Man, I had a fucking California Raisins album when I was a kid.
Holy shit.
Which is weird to think about it because it's like the claymation grapes or raisins didn't fucking sing the songs. But it was still just like a cassette of like cover songs, and it was like heard it through the grapevine and stuff like that. And it was, the artist was the California Raisins. What a fucking weird time the 80s was that like, if like around that time, like California Raisins, I was into that. Spuds McKinsey. I couldn't even drink beer, but I loved Spuds McKinsey. Yeah. What a time. What a time to be alive. You weren't alive there, but yeah. Anyway.
I should have been. Yeah. I was robbed.
If you were born at a different time, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. So
true.
Everything worked out the way it was supposed to, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it. Any parting words before we get out?
I don't know. This ain't even about corn.
They should do an AI of that with Steven Tyler doing the twist.
Well, you just know it just sounded. Yeah. It'll probably just sound like that.
Yeah, probably. All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening in the podcast world. We don't forget about you. If you want to send us a message, you can send it to me go to oldheadnetwork.com and go to the contact section. Feel free to send me shit. Maybe I'll read it online. I don't know. Online. Why does that? Whenever I say online, that sounds like an old man talking. Go online to the World Wide Web. Our address is HTTP. No. Anyway, all right, that's it. Let's get out of here. All right, as usual, I'm going to throw it over for the first time in over a month to Mr. Eddie Sparxx to take us out.
That was a gurgle later, dude. Thought it would be cool. I don't know.